E39 source here with Ryan in the 2005 Canon's 525. He's going to be helping me today replace my fan and fan clutch. This will be applicable to V8 E39s. The inline 6s you were saying is a little bit more difficult.
Significantly different, yeah.
Okay, so we'll get some part numbers here. One, why do it? The fan clutch is responsible for, your main pulley here is going to spin at your engine RPM. So the clutch is going to keep the fan at a much lower RPM than that. If your car sounds like a school bus when you pull away, that's probably a good indication of a bad fan clutch. Or Kenan, you want to tell them about the test that you can kind of do?
Yeah, so the test you can do is you can take a piece of paper, just a plain 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and fold it up several times. And then with the engine on and the fan spinning, if you stick it in the fan and it slows the fan down enough to the point where it stops, your fan clutch is good. That means it disengages normally. If not, then you've got a fan clutch that's sticky and just continuing to spin the fan around, which is why it creates the noise as the RPMs get higher. It's supposed to disengage.
So you'll have noise, you'll have too much ventilation.
The noise is the best way to know it's a dead gear.
As this plastic of the fan wears, deteriorates over time and use, the blades could actually fracture off and then go through your hood. So this would be a really good preventative maintenance thing to do. So I'm just going to replace my fan and the fan clutch. The fan part number, by the way, we've got a BMW dealer in here right now. Stay tuned, guys. There's a lot of videos coming and there's one hell of a lot of parts here. Anyways, here is the actual fan itself. I believe this was around $80 from ECS Tuning. And I will leave a part number in the description below, as I can't find it on the actual fan. You could take that. This is the fan clutch. Looks like the original manufacturer is bare. There's a part number 1157 or 527830486. Came from ECS. This is a lot more pricey, about $180, $200.
I recommend just finding it on eBay. I found the same part for like $100, so it's...
Okay, so you can shop around a little bit. I would go with the original manufacturer though. So we've prepped this fairly easily with a can of PB Blaster. I hit this primary bolt down here a couple times, once about 3 hours ago and then another time about an hour ago.
And from my experience with doing it, just be careful not to get any on your belts because they will squeak. Mine's still squeak, and I did that replacement in January. So
okay. Yeah, avoid the belts.
Just be very careful, but definitely put it on there. I'd actually put it on there the night before. I'd recommend, because Ryan's car is usually in really good shape, and that bolt looks like it's not very rusted. It should come off no problem. But I'd recommend spraying it the night before and letting it soak in, and then just do it the next day.
All right. So here's our funky tool.
Okay. Yeah, these are special tools. You can get these on eBay. First, it's just a 32mm open-ended wrench, no big deal. But obviously it's hard to find one in that size. And then this is the special tool that actually holds the fan clutch from spinning. You actually just put it onto the clutch here, and then it'll keep it from moving around. And then all you have to do is crank the bolt off, and it should be no problem. But yeah, these parts are specialist parts. Get them on eBay. They're like $30. They're good to have around though, just in case you, or in Ryan's case, a friend needs to have some work done.
We've got a guy. All right, so let's dig in and see how it goes.
Okay, so you're going to take your two tools. One note that I'd like to make before we start this is this tool has two different endings on it because it really depends on how the fan is oriented to you when you turn the car off. So if their bolts are spaced differently, if the two closer ones are to you, use this end, otherwise use that end. So what you're going to do is you're just going to take it and put it on the bolts, and this is kind of tricky to get it right, but once it's on, it shouldn't be too big of a problem. Yeah, I can't quite get that last one on there, I'll fiddle with it, but once that's on there, then you take a 32mm wrench, put it on to the bolt, and then go to the driver's side, turn towards the driver's side of the car, because, well, in the United States anyway, because it's reverse threaded. So you want to turn to the right, and then you'll feel it pop off. It's very easy, especially if you let it soak the night before. And then once you've got that kind of coming off to the point where you can spin it, and I've already broken it loose, you can spin it and start to work the bolt off. Then it's really easy if you have two people, because one person can spin it and the other person can hold the fan. But once the fan comes off, then you just want to grab it and work it out. Okay, so with the fan out of the car, there's what it looks like. It's probably going to be really dirty. The next thing you're going to need to do is take out these 3 hex bolts here. We'll put a notation for the torques in a minute because I can't remember it off the top of my head. But just work those out. I would recommend, if you have the bolts to replace them, just do it. Otherwise you can just reuse the originals if they're in good shape. These look like they're fine, they're not too rusty or anything. So just unscrew those and then pop the fan out. Make sure to pop it out on this side because that's how it's seated inside the actual fan blade.
We put a little bit of PB blaster on these three. We don't actually have the size. We're using an Allen key. It would be better should you have something like this. This one's too small. This is a 4 mil. You probably want a 5 or a 6. This one was too big. This is a 6. All right, so it's a 5. It's a 5 millimeter hexagonal head like that. If you're doing this, you could probably replace those bolts for a couple dollars. I didn't think to do it, so I'm not. I'm just going to reuse the existing. But with those out, we'll need a few hands, but we'll pop this out from the other side. With the old one out, or if you're reusing your existing fan, I'm just going to install the new clutch in the new fan. Line up those holes. We will replace the screws, new or existing, tighten those down, and then we'll be ready to go back in the car. Now for the story on an inline 6 car, 525, 528, 530.
Right, we're not actually going to replace this. I just want to point out why it is so difficult, and the reason is due to the size of the engine. Because the weight balance of the car, because the M5's engine is so much heavier, this has to be mounted much further forward to keep the 50-50 weight distribution. But as you can see, the fan is buried way down in there, and you can't really get anything in there. So in order to take this off, what you have to do is get ready. You have to kind of disconnect everything from the fan shroud first. Then you have to torque that off, and once you have the fan clutch off, you have to push the fan into the shroud and then hold it there and simultaneously lift the whole shroud and the fan out of the car together. So if you're doing that, if you have to do that job, which is a real pain, I would recommend just replacing everything. Replace your water pump, replace your belts because you have access to them, replace the fan clutch, replace the fan, everything you can, because this whole unit has to come out, and you have to disconnect radiator hoses, and it's a real nightmare. Which is funny that there is something that is easier to work on a V8 car in comparison to an inline 6 car. It doesn't happen very often.
And that's why I bought an M5. So we're all set. We just took the car on a test drive. The only thing you're going to notice is your first acceleration up the street in first gear or so. You're going to hear a lot of the fan. Generally these fans sit horizontally in their packaging when they should actually be sitting vertical, so it takes a few minutes to get the oil lubricating around. Now it works fine, sounds good. I revved the engine to about 6 grand in the garage, and the fan clutch works beautifully. So that's going to be it for that. Now we're going to do some work on the 525. Thanks for watching with your fan clutch, and we'll talk to you in the next video, and trust me, there's a lot to come.